Hello and welcome back to the Saints Squad Show. I'm your host, Dylan Sanders, and not even the Saints blowing a late, almost miracle could bring me down from the high of the LSU Tigers hiring Lane Kiffin.
I'm Darian Gray of Who Dat Dish, and at least things finished better than they started.
John Hendricks, New Orleans Football, and man, shout out to Devaughn Vele.
This is former Saints wide receiver Lance Moore. I agree with John. Shout out to Devon Vele, but also shout out to the Jets. Jets. Jets.
It's the Saints Squad. Everything New Orleans Saints, every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from down in the Big Easy, the way only Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Saints Squad Show, starting now.
Howdy, Hoodoo Nation, and welcome back to another episode of the Saints Squad Show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the number one sports podcast network in the nation. Number one, baby. Thank you for making us your first listen every Sunday and Wednesday, except for last Wednesday because it was a holiday week. We tried to make it work, couldn't really work, so it's whatever. But you get it. You get it. We have a unique group of extras here ready to bring you a fun and informative show on everything New Orleans Saints. Today, we're going to be diving into the game against the Miami Dolphins, where it was kind of boring for the most part, and then right at the end, it became wild. It was crazy. Crazy onside kick recovery. We're going to break it all down. We're going to talk offense, defense. And then I kept the players of the game because I think there are a couple people who deserve a specific shout out towards the end. We'll get into all of that. Today's episode is sponsored by Gametime, I believe. Let me double check. I believe it's Gametime. If it's not, this part's going to get edited out. It is.
Yeah,
I knew it.
You swapped it.
Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Smooth sailing, just like that, guys. All right, let's get into this. It's our instant reactions. Let's talk about this game, and let's start off with Lance Moore. Overall thoughts on the game. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I said it before we came on the air that it really felt like the tale of two halves being two different teams. I mean, like, the first half, the offense was a no call, no show. Like literally nothing. They couldn't get anything going. Defense made some plays and basically kept this team in the game altogether. I mean, it could have gotten real ugly before the half if the defense didn't show up and make a couple of plays. The interception, obviously, a couple of sacks on third downs. I don't understand what it is with this team. Maybe it's the youth. Maybe it's the first-time head coach. Maybe it's the play calling. Maybe it's just not having enough playmakers. But to see the team start out so poorly and then kind of rebound and get some things going in the second half and have a nice long drive, converting on third downs, and then obviously getting into the end zone, Tyler Shuck showing a little bit of touch. Something that we haven't seen. I mean, both touchdown passes that he had were incredible touch throws. And we haven't seen a ton of that this season. So that was kind of something where I was like, oh, okay, he's got a little bit of that in his bag. The receivers in the second half started making some plays for him. Offensive line did a better job of protecting him in the second half. I do feel like this team not being able to run the football is problematic. It's going to continue to rear its ugly head if we are going to be a one-dimensional team, basically trying to throw it on every single play. But all in all, I will say it again. Every loss in essence is a win for this team because we moved up a spot today with the Jets winning. So it is encouraging to see the team finish the way that they did as far as being competitive and in the game and making plays down the stretch. It's encouraging, but the beginning of the game in the first half overall is problematic. So how do you kind of strike a balance between how good they finished and how poorly they started? I don't know that, but that's something they're going to have to figure out.
Yeah, it is. It was I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things to figure out for this team, but I think the second half definitely had more positives to take away than after the first half. I think we were all talking about this team's terrible. They're not going to win another game. I'm ready for the season to be over. But the second half, it got a little bit more fun again. John, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the second half team. If they played like that all year, it might be a little bit different. But it's crazy. And I think this is part of the frustration that you could see, because the first half, I mean, they had no answer. They had nothing to go. And I mean, you look at Kellen Moore's play calling or lack thereof. The offense wasn't there. The run defense sucked. I mean, Devon Achane was just going off on them, right? I mean, this was a thing where if Tua doesn't throw a pick and doesn't kind of mess things up, then I feel like this could have been a lot worse in the first half. But you make some adjustments, you do some things differently, maybe get some things going. I just think some of this exposes how much the Saints need. You need better upgrades on offensive line. You need better play calling. You may have found a wide receiver out of this with Devaughn Vele. I mean, that's a good thing for him. It was nice to see Cam Jordan get 2 sacks on the day and then pass up Derek Thomas, which was one of the guys near and dear to my heart when I was growing up watching football. And so shout out to him. Charlie Smith was a good bright spot. I mean, there's definitely some good things to see. I thought Tyler Shuck had some good moments, but then obviously they had some not so good moments. And I think for this team, just another loss and then just playing this Jekyll and Hyde where, you look good one week and then in some aspects, and then you look not so good in the next week. It's a sign of coaching to me, right? And whether it's coaching or execution, both can be true here. I think that's what's just frustrating. But I mean, again, I'm like with Lance. I'm encouraged by how they fought in the second half. The problem is you just cannot put it together for the life of them. And at some point, you got to start looking at the people upstairs and looking at the coaching staff and saying, is this the right person to lead the offense? And then do you have everything that you need on offense? And then same thing on defense. I think that's the biggest question marks you got to figure out down the stretch with these games that you have left here for the Saints, which is just going to be 5. And I mean, they're going to be officially eliminated from playoffs. So, 5 years that they haven't been in the playoffs. And so, again, there's a lot to leave to the imagination for this team. That's kind of where I'm at after this game.
Yeah. Darian, thoughts?
I'm glad that Lance took the second half and John took the first half, so now I can kind of free roam a little bit and I can hone in.
Yeah, what'd you think about halftime?
Well,
Yeah,
halftime was a pretty good time. I talked to my dad. We talked about how the game was going. Turned out it did a complete 180 on us. But, halftime was pretty relaxed. I woke up a little bit. Yeah, I thought halftime was good. But I think that you two honestly did a great job breaking down the optimism that comes with the second half, the pessimism that comes with the first half. Like, that is the total picture. But one thing that I noticed is I want to jump straight to Devon Vele, because for a while, since he's been traded for, many people have said that Vele is the receiver that the Saints need. But I think now that you have Tyler Shuck in the game, he's proven that he is the receiver that Shuck needs. Because one thing that wasn't spoken about a lot, but if you look at what he did in Denver, it was a lot of scramble drill. It was a lot of improvisation. It was a lot of, all right, this didn't work at first. What are we going to do now? And Shuck does that quite a bit. Shuck has operated off schedule quite a bit in the offense. And you've seen a couple of throws where he threw it and it wasn't the first route. Of course, you had those 2 in routes and those were great. But you also seen him scramble and find Vele. And that's something that Vele does well. That's something that Shuck does often. To me, that partnership just makes sense. So yes, Vele is the big body receiver that you need from just an offensive standpoint, but I also think he's going to complement Shuck because he's going to play upon what is currently a strength in Shuck's game, more so than I feel like the other receivers have. He just seems to have a knack for the scramble drill.
Well, both touchdowns today were not those were scramble drill touchdowns. Mm-hmm. So being able to extend plays like Tyler Shuck can, and being able to be on the same page with the receivers after such a short period of time, that's good stuff. And then obviously those throws. I honestly, when he let that touchdown pass go to Devon Vele, I thought he was throwing the ball away. Yeah, and then all of a sudden there's Devon Vele, and I was like, oh, he caught it. And I was like, oh, that's a touchdown. And then they showed the replay. I was like, oh man, this is so being able to make plays like that from the quarterback standpoint, that's going to get you some extra bonus points, right? Because it's not, Kellen Moore doesn't just have to call the perfect play every time in order for him to have success from the quarterback position, because he's able to be athletic and move around and extend plays and then be able to show the touch and the accuracy that he did. And he's got guys that obviously can wiggle themselves open and find the open areas and score touchdowns. I mean, that to me offensively was probably the best takeaway of this game. And, you know, something that you can definitely build on, because sure, you want to call the most perfect play every time, but the reality is defensive guys get paid too. And sometimes they're going to shut down your original play call. Then what happens? And so he's been able to improvise and show that he's able to make those plays down the field. So that was a really good thing to see by him.
Let me add something on to that as far as the play calling, but then also you did a lot of trading away talent on that team. You traded away a lot of you trade away your second and third best receivers. So I think that you're also going to have to do some improvising when it comes to just, you're not working with a lot at the receiver position. So I think that comes into play as well. But go ahead, John. I didn't want to go too far.
No. I was just going to say, let's not ignore the elephants in the room on that last drive, though. I mean, the third one call, Olave could have had that touchdown, right? I feel like if you're going to be wide receiver one, we've talked about on this show so many times, you got to make those catches. You have to make those catches. And on the fourth down play, I don't know what in the world the thought process was on that fourth down play. Like, even like, I get it. This is a game you didn't have a lot of Taysom. Like, he touched the ball, I think, twice maybe in this game. Yeah. But even in that aspect, you could have done something way different than just try to run a QB sneak on 4th and 1. I think he even had a timeout still on the board. So you could have talked about it. You could have planned a little bit better. I think that's just what the frustration and inconsistency, and whether you want to chalk it up as he's a first-year head coach. He's called offensive plays for years in this league. So I don't know. You can totally say, let's give him a pass, because he's played and been in this NFL culture for a long time and should know what to do.
Was that Olave play on second down or third down?
I'm thinking it was the second down play. Yeah. And then the third down play was something. Yeah.
I think it was another incompletion or a throwaway. But
yeah.
So in my mind, whenever a team drops a touchdown pass or drops an interception or like doesn't get a fumble recovery, usually nothing good happens after that. Like, it's usually like disaster happens after that, right? So, okay, a chance to basically win the game. You score a touchdown there. That is, in essence, the game winner. There's not a lot of time left. Okay, it doesn't happen. You got 3rd and 1 in, I think there was 39 seconds or maybe a little bit less than that, but you've got a timeout in your pocket. You run the football on 3rd and 1. You spread the formation, you have 11 personnel, whatever, which is, 3 receivers, 1 back and tight end. You spread them out, make them think that you're going to run the ball. You get the first down easily on 3rd down so that you don't have to panic on 4th down, right?
Yep.
And then let's just say they stop them for no gain on 3rd and 1. On 4th and 1, you're throwing the ball one way or another. You're not, because it's one thing to not be able to run the football. It's a whole nother thing to not be able to run the football and then say, hey, we're going to bow our necks on this 4th and 1 and push these guys back, which we haven't done at all the entire game. Poor Devon Vele was having to make guys miss 2 and 3 yards in the backfield every single time he touched the ball just to get to the line of scrimmage. It is, to me, it's insane. And it's like him not thinking about what he has in the time in that moment of, what kind of team he has. This is not the Philadelphia Eagles. We can't do the tush push on 4th and 1. We don't have the personnel to do that. And in this particular game, we ain't run the ball worth the heck anyway. So why now all of a sudden are we going to try to do exactly what we cannot do on 4th and 1? It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's bad coaching. It's just, it doesn't. On 3rd and 1, I was like, okay, spread them out, run the ball, get 1 yard, call your
3
timeout.
plays. 3 plays to get a yard, Lance.
I mean, it's bad. That's bad. I mean, look, I love Kellen Moore. He's a former teammate of mine. That was awful. You can't. You just can't do that. You cannot do it. You can't do it. I'm not saying he shouldn't throw the ball on 2nd and 1. 2nd and 1, take a shot, which is what he did. The guy didn't make the play. He's got to catch it. Like there's, and I said it. I tried to give him a little bit of an excuse. He felt like, in my opinion, that he was going to get contacted, but he didn't see the DB fall down. And like, he could have literally just put his hands up and plucked the ball and landed right in the end zone. He probably wouldn't have even fallen down. Like, that's how close it was. That he tried to kind of body it, thinking that he was going to get contacted. I don't know, man. I could go on and on about pass plays, but when you don't do the things that are smart, and I mean, it's all little mini games of situational football. And when you lose more of those little mini games, the outcome generally is going to be you coming out on the short end at the end of the game.
All right. Before we move on to the next segment, there's one name I want to throw out. We'll get into it later, but I feel like we have to talk about in the first segment. We haven't talked about Charlie Smith. Shout out, major field goal, first career field goal. We'll talk about that later in the show. Onside kick. We're going to talk about it all later, but I feel like I had to get his name in there for the first segment. But
Of course.
We'll be right back. When we come back, we're going to talk about Tyler Shuck and how we feel about him after 5 starts, I believe. But we're going to talk after a couple games, see where we stand on the young quarterback. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere PrizePicks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. The new Stacks feature is a game changer. You can now pick more on Steph's points, threes, and assists all in the same lineup. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot saves your lineup from a loss. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Let's go to LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. All right. I want to jump in and I want to talk. We can talk some offense overall stuff throughout this game, throughout this segment, but I want to start off the conversation with Tyler Shuck because it's been five or so games that we've seen him start. We've gotten a good feel. He's starting to get into a rhythm. And I'll start the conversation at this. Right now, where it feels, where I see, I would feel perfectly fine entering 2026 or the next season with him as the starting quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. I feel like he has shown why he was drafted. It hasn't been perfect. There's room for growth, but I think he's shown enough over these past couple of weeks where you feel fine if the team doesn't walk out of the draft with a quarterback. Honestly, it might be preferable because there's so many places around the quarterback that still need to be built up. A defensive line, another wide receiver option, running back, tight end. There's a bunch of places. This team is not a quarterback away from being a team, so you can kind of be fine with Tyler Shuck in the draft, leaving the draft with Tyler Shuck, building around him, seeing how he does with that, and then if need be, move on after that. So that's how I feel about the Tyler Shuck experiment right now. Let's start off with John. How do you feel?
I mean, I'm encouraged by what I've seen out of Tyler Shuck. I think what I appreciate most is his ability to improvise and navigate the pocket. I think that's been one of his best qualities so far. And man, he's got some sling to his throws. I mean, and I really feel like he's kind of reaping some of the benefits and learning a little bit here and such. And so I don't know that I'm ready to say that he is definitely the guy in 2026, right? But I do feel better about him being that guy now than I did several weeks ago. It is a potential possibility. The Saints, they need a lot of help. They need offensive help. They need defensive help. They need coaching help. I mean, there's just too much, and you're not going to fix it all in one off season. I think they can make strides. They got to get that offensive line short up. They got to get a run game going, because if they have a run game going, I think it takes a lot of stress off of what Tyler Shuck has to do. But you look at some of those plays that he had today, he's under duress way too quickly. Just like Devon Vele had to struggle just to get back to the line of scrimmage, Tyler Shuck's under duress way too quickly. And we saw it with Rattler too. I think this offensive line has some things. But look, again, to answer your question, Dylan, is I do feel better about the direction and the trajectory where it's going. The options this offseason are not that great when it comes to free agency. The draft, maybe you don't necessarily swing for a quarterback on the first night or the second night, but maybe you look at day 3 as a potential possibility. But I'm encouraged by what I've seen from Tyler Shuck. I think in some aspects, he's probably outperformed some of the expectations. He's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes just like Spencer Rattler did last year. He's going to make mistakes too. But I feel like some of those are expected. You're not going to get a rookie guy that's always going to come in here and just go balls out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
That's Lance. I was going to say ball out, but look. Good night, guys.
Whoa!
This is a family-friendly program. I hope no one goes balls out.
I mean,
Darian.
footballs.
I'm not either. If that's what you're about to ask, it won't be me.
Darian.
Oh, man.
Darian.
Well,
what are your thoughts?
Oh, wow. Where do we go? I was gonna say that I agree with John at the beginning, but man, I don't know if I can say it now.
No, you can say it at the beginning. It's fine. We'll just put a pause, timeout. We should have called the timeout like Kellen Moore should have at the end of the game.
It's okay.
Now we can refocus, re-energize, and rehuddle. Now we got it.
Yeah. No, I think
ahead,
that
Darren.
John has a good point about him outperforming some of the expectations. I also feel better about Shuck now than I did probably, 2 months ago towards the beginning of the year. I'll say this. I'm not at the point where I'm definitely trading out of the number 1 pick. And I think that the way the Saints have looked at the beginning of the game, that's a conversation. It's not just, okay, the Titans are for sure going to be ahead of you. I think that the Saints have looked their way to where if they go out and they play against the Titans the way they did in the beginning of this game, you may be having conversations about New Orleans having the number 1 pick. Then the conversation becomes, is it Francisco Mendoza versus Tyler Shuck? And I think that conversation looks a lot different if we're not talking about trading up to number 1. So I'm not at the point to where if the Saints land with the first overall pick, that I would for sure be out on drafting a rookie if I feel like he's the guy. But at the same time, Shuck has done some things that have been encouraging. I do like what he's done as far as improvising. Like I mentioned earlier, I think that everything around him requires him to do it. And that's probably the most difficult part about his evaluation is Vele looks like he's going to be, I hope, because I felt like he started that momentum last week, picked up on it this week. I think it's a trend. I don't think this is a one-off. I think that Vele could pop up and be a reliable weapon for him. I think that Olave is a reliable weapon for him. I would still like to see more around the quarterback, like John mentioned. So that makes my evaluation of Shuck a little bit more difficult. But where I am currently is if the Saints land at number 1, it's no guarantee that I'm calling for the trade back. I may invest in that quarterback.
But I mean, there also has to be the quarterback.
Yeah,
the
silent disclaimer, the silent caveat. If I feel like he's the guy, right? Like I don't think Shuck has done enough to tell me I'm not going to. I don't think Shuck has done enough to tell me he's for sure the guy for me to pass him on somebody else I think is the guy. But I have to believe that he is the franchise quarterback and not some another form of a bridge.
Yeah. Lance, how you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of sort of in the middle here. I totally feel what Darian's saying. And I think what he's saying is if the Saints mess around and have the number 1 pick, then I'm not saying that Tyler Shuck is for sure the number 1 guy next year. I agree with that wholeheartedly. You're going to do all your research. You're going to do your scouting. You're going to have all your workouts and visits with Mendoza because I'm pretty sure everybody's calling him the number 1 overall quarterback prospect in this draft.
Right.
And you do your due diligence. I mean, you fell in love with Tyler Shuck last year. Who's to say that you can't fall in love with the new guy this year? And then pause and then figure out if holding on to that number 1 pick this year makes more sense than trading out of the number 1 pick and the assets that you could acquire in doing so. So I think Tyler Shuck is improving. A couple of things that are growing pains that go along with having a starting rookie quarterback in this league. The interception that he threw is pure case in point. They're playing cover 2. Tyler Shuck had it kind of predetermined in his mind where he was going with that football and didn't pay any attention to that corner outside. That is a rookie mistake that he made. And whenever a team is playing zone coverage, it's kind of hard to pick where you're going with the football before the ball snapped. Like his eyes obviously should have been downfield to see where those safeties are going. As those safeties widen out, you should know right away that corner is not going to be dropping off on the outside. He didn't. The ball gets picked. That's a rookie mistake. Now, if we've got a 7-8-year veteran that makes that throw and that ball gets picked, we're having a whole different conversation. But I think that's one that he'll learn from. And next time, maybe he'll look at Olave and then shoot that ball to the outside receiver that's supposed to basically be running a clear out, but he could get him that ball before the safety is able to get over there, and you got a nice little chunk play. That's the first thing. Second thing, I think he's a little bit gun shy as far as throwing the ball down the field. If it doesn't look perfect, he's not doing it. And I don't think Kellen Moore is doing a great job of allowing him to do so. That's one of the strengths of his game, is throwing the ball down the field. We're not seeing that enough. The last thing, when he drops back and stuff kind of opens up and he just puts his foot in the ground and takes off, I love to see it. Mm-hmm. When he drops back and he's really trying to get through his progression and he gets a little bit antsy, he either escapes a little bit too soon and puts himself in harm's way, or he's not getting through that progression quick enough and finding the outlet guy. That to me is another rookie kind of growing pain situation that he has. I'm not saying that he should drop back, put his foot in the ground and be taken off all the time, but when he's able to make a quick decision, the result of the play is generally better. But again, that will be sharpened up in time with repetition, especially game repetition, because there's no way that you can replicate what is happening and how fast it's going in a game in a practice setting. So he just needs more reps to be able to get through that. And I think having a running game will help him become a better quarterback as well. And that's not something that just happens overnight. So unfortunately for him and for us, I don't know that that's changing in the last 5 weeks of this season. So we might not even be able to get a full evaluation of him playing basically one-dimensional football. But I do think that the good that we're seeing is, to me, a little bit more important than the bad, because the bad to me isn't, oh, this guy can't do X, Y, and Z. It's this guy hasn't seen X, Y, and Z enough to be able to become really, really good at it. So I think he's getting better. But I also am kind of with Darian. I don't know that I'm ready to say 2026 sure thing starter. But if we end up with the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th pick in the draft, I would say yes. Draft, edge guy, draft receiver early, and then we talk about quarterback after the 2026 season to see if he's become that guy. Yeah, that's kind of where I am without totally choosing a side.
Yeah,
well,
and I think
go ahead, Darren. No, I was just saying you got to talk about the turnovers today. I mean, the strip sack. From the first glance, it did look like you should have felt that pressure from Fitzpatrick. I mean, that was a big thing. And then the pick, that was something you're staring down the receiver. But I mean, I want to comment on the strip sack. I want to comment on the strip sack. To me, having receivers in protection is never a good idea. And so Devaughn Vele's in there in protection. He kind of sneaks inside a little bit, looks to his left. Here comes the blitzing safety. It's too late. I don't like having wide receivers are not pass protectors. I don't care how big they are. I don't care how much they weigh. Like, that's not what we're built to do. If you have a tight end in the game who's more accustomed to protecting on pass plays, then you probably don't have that situation, because then they're allowed, or they're more versed at scanning the field, figuring out who the rushers are. Oh, here comes this safety on my left. I can just redirect, get my body on them, and we don't have that issue. To me, it's just not smart football. It's similar to having a undersized tight end like Jawan Johnson at the point of attack, blocking defensive ends in the run game. Not smart. It's just not. I understand that's what your specific offense tells that player at that position to be, but maybe put a different body in on that play so it's not Jawan blocking at the point of attack in the run game, right? It's just it's little things like that get you beat in a game that is winnable. Like that, like
it's one thing if he gets sacked there, but obviously it's a sack, turnover, and like you could have had points on the board on that drive. Like, so and that goes back to coaching, personnel and trying to figure out who is supposed to be on the field on any given play. Those little mistakes get you beat.
Yeah, and they got to get more protection inside. I know that this is highly Shuck, but this was related to him. So they have to get better protection inside. They have to get better blocking on the run game inside. John mentioned it earlier, and it wasn't something that we really went too in detail about. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, we've seen the same thing with Kendre for years, where Kendre is getting attacked in the backfield. And I've always said that Kendre is a much better advanced statistic guy. He's always a guy who looks better on the eye test than he does on the box score. And I thought that Devon Vele's performance was similar in the sense where the box score isn't going to tell you how far in the backfield he got contacted and how often it happened. I would love to see the advanced stats to see how many yards he got before contact, because you're not going to get the run game if you can't get it blocked up. And the Saints are not getting blocked up. And I don't think it's just a personnel, I don't think it's just a play calling thing. I don't think it's just asking people to do certain things. I think it's personnel. I think that the guys on the inside, Cesar Ruiz has been here for a few years, right? Like, I think we've seen this be consistent with him. I know that Radens is new, but it's time to reinvest in that position. You spend a lot of time investing on the exterior. You got Banks, you got Fawanga. All right, it's time to invest in the interior offensive line as well, whether that's in the mid rounds or if that's free agency or if it's both, because I think you have multiple holes that you're going to have to fill there. So I think that that's something that wasn't talked about a lot, but it's a problem that we see recurring every single week.
Mm-hmm. I'll end the offensive talk on a positive. Less Taysom Hill. Less Taysom Hill in this game. That was a good adjustment. Adjustment. And we talked a lot about how there was way too much last week. They kind of, I guess they learned that it wasn't going to be what unlocked this offense. And they kind of looked elsewhere. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about the defensive side of the ball. I think it was another fine defensive performance with a couple of holes. We're going to start off by talking about the run defense and Devon Vele. Talk about that coming up next. I actually got so excited whenever we got this ad copy. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest. Everyone wants to go to a World Cup game, but what's the first thing you think of? How hard it is to get tickets. I don't even know where to start. But with Gametime, getting tickets is easier. That's why Gametime is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Gametime, you can track prices as they drop in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy the tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app and the layout makes it so simple to scroll through matchups and compare different seats. And if there's a certain team or matchup you're waiting for, you can set up certain alerts for those to make it easier to grab tickets the moment they drop instead of missing out. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets, every match, concert, or event you want to go to with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Gametime. All right, let's start with the defensive side of the ball. I think it was a fine day. A lot of bend, don't break.
Yeah.
A lot of clutch moments. I think some players stood out. But let's start off with the run defense and Devon Vele. And honestly, I hate to bring it back to the offense, but more than anything, watching Devon Vele play today made me want a fast running back so bad. Just
they had a shot at it.
Game changing. Yeah.
They took Kendre Miller.
But they took Kendre Miller. Yes. Devon Vele, man. What could have been. But no, he was running all over the place. The defense really seemed to have the speed to keep up. There's a lot of chunk plays on the run game. So let's start there. Let's start off with Darian. What do you think about the run defense today?
Highlight was probably Stutzman's first tackle. That was probably the highlight of run defense. So I'll get that out the way because I think it was pretty much all bad. Yeah, straight out of WWE. I was watching the Survivor Series last night. I saw Braun Breaker pull a couple tackles like that. So, but I think that this, to me, is a hole that I don't feel like is as exploited as often as it could have been against the Saints defense this year. They haven't been that good running the football, but it feels like the biggest plays have been through the air, and that's kind of taken some of the attention. We've talked about the young secondary, and that's kind of taken some of the attention. But I don't think that this team has been that strong against the run on a play-by-play basis. I don't know what the stats say, but just my eyes tell me that they've had some struggles in that, and this was probably one of the worst examples of it. So speed, not the strongest on the defense. Speed is right in his wheelhouse. I thought that they did a good job opening up holes, and they did a terrible job, and the Saints did a terrible job tackling. So it was pretty much all bad in that regard. One of the saving graces was the fact that Tua was playing quarterback, and they chose to lean on Tua at times, and that really helped out New Orleans. There was a screen pass that seemed easy to hit, and it would have been a touchdown. They ended up having to settle for 3. There was another 3rd and short, I think maybe 3rd and 1, where they did a rollout and Tua threw a ball, and it was behind them. These are opportunities that maybe not that screen pass, but definitely that 3rd and 1. If they would have ran the football, I have full belief that they would have gotten it, and I thought maybe leaning away from it helped the Saints defense at times. So, I shouldn't say that the one tackle by Stutzman was the only one. I also thought Kool-Aid's chase down tackle was clutch. It almost set up for a game-tying drive. So that was also a big moment. So it started hot, ended hot, but in between, it wasn't really that well.
Yeah. I definitely don't think the defense was the issue in this game. That hasn't been for a while, but, is the big plays, I think, still stood out a couple of big time. Lance, what are your thoughts on the defensive side of the ball today?
Look, man, when their running back isn't getting touched until he's 5 yards down the field, that's problematic.
Yep.
I'm not saying we need to be in the backfield hitting their guy every single time like our running backs are getting hit. I'm asking for the defensive line to hold guys down so that the linebackers can run free. Let's have some 2-yard gains. Let's have some 3-yard gains. Hey, maybe we can get a tackle for loss on a run play. There was no. I'm honest. I don't remember a single run play that was a tackle for loss on this defense. Like, that is an issue. The D linemen being handled. This isn't the first time we've had this conversation on this pod about our defensive line not being able to get off blocks and them literally just being moved. The offensive line is creating a different line of scrimmage, and their running backs are able to just run free into the 2nd and 3rd lines of defense. That is problematic. It can't happen. Like, sure, that they were silly in that they wanted to throw the football. For what reason? I have no idea. I would have run the ball 50 times in this game, because at no point did our defense stop them from running the football. It was really strange to me to see them call the plays that they did. I know Mike McDaniel is an offensive guru and a genius and all that stuff. Well, that genius today wasn't very smart, because he should have continued to run the football play after play after play and make us put an extra guy in the box. And even if we did, our poor tackling today probably wouldn't have helped us. That is an issue. I feel like Quincy Riley was robbed on an interception. He looked like he clearly got his arms under the football, and once he got control of the ball, it didn't move. I think the angle was poor. The TV 2 angles that they had, I guess, weren't enough to overturn it. I guarantee you, if they called it an interception to begin with, it would have been upheld.
Yes.
Danny Stutzman obviously made a play. Like Chase Young, Brian Brzee, finally, where have you been all season? Cam Jordan, man, like
turn back the clock, man.
He's going to be a Hall of Famer, not because he's a Myles Garrett freak athlete, bigger, stronger, quicker, more agile than everybody else. He's going to be a Hall of Famer because of his effort. Now, that's not to say that he's not athletic, he's not gifted, but the relentlessness with which he plays, to me, is something that should be shown in Little League meeting rooms, which I don't even know if that's a thing. But when you talk to your Little League team,
probably some nowadays, definitely something.
you should pull your phone out and just show highlights of Cam Jordan, because it's not always on the first rush or the first move. It's not always on the second rush or the second move. It's the third and fourth effort that gets him to the quarterback. And he's got the ability still at this late stage of his career to finish plays with sacks. How many sacks does Cam now have this year? 7 or 8?
6.5.
6.5. Okay, well, still.
4 in the last 3 weeks.
Right?
4 in the last 3 weeks. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, come on, man. Like, it's effort. Why are other guys not playing with that same effort? It bugs me. And I like, to me, effort should be a non-negotiable. It shouldn't be that guy got me on my pass rush. Let me see what happens. No, keep playing, because you never know what's going to end up happening on any given play. So, the run defense was problematic, and we were bailed out by Mike McDaniel calling as many passing plays as he did, because I honestly think it could have been one of those Seattle situations again, had they chosen to run the football consistently, and for whatever reason, they just didn't.
Yeah. I'll give a shout out. I want to give a shout out while we're talking about Cam. I'll give a shout out to Chase Young. I think he is living up to the contract that they gave him. I think he's looking at 5 sacks in 7 games. He had a lot of pressure today. I think he had a nice run defense day. I think that, yeah, I'll give a shout out to Chase Young, because we gave him a lot of flack. He missed a lot of time again this season. But ever since getting back onto the field, I think he looks like the player that they hoped for when they gave that contract. And moving on to next year, I think you can definitely feel comfortable bringing him back, maybe adding on someone else on the opposite side of him to, like an Arvell Reese or like a Ruben Bay.
God.
Please. Oh, my God.
I saw what
just
Michael
somebody
Parsons did on Thanksgiving. Good Lord,
somebody.
please. Yeah. Somebody
Yes.
like that.
But yeah, Chase Young, I want to give a shout out to him, because I think he had a good game, and he's had a couple of good games since coming back. Finally. Like, that is a fine contract that they handed out. I think we say that, we gave him a lot of flack. We've given a lot of flack for the Jawan contract. The Chase Young contract didn't make a ton of sense at the time. Jawan,
like exact reaction.
the Justin Reed contract. But yeah, Chase Young, still young, kind of coming into his own. This is probably his most efficient year. Unfortunately, it was cut short, but he's been good since coming back.
Yeah. Since he listens to the pod. I'm sorry, Darren. He listens to the pod and listened to my advice, because I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago about the 8+ sacks, and I was like, I should get to 10. I told you, Chase, don't let me down, and thank you, Chase, for not letting me down so far. Now you got to finish it.
Yeah, no, that would be impressive. Also, I want to throw this out there by Cam: 300,000 on each of those sacks today. Like, I think Cat tweeted that out, that he hits some incentives, and if he hits one more, that's to keep climbing. If it's one more next week, or like at any point during the year, and he reaches 7, then he'll get an extra 400,000. So we talking about
he's getting that sack.
Yeah, no, 100%. It feels good to see Cam still do this. We talk about players that we criticize a lot. There's been a lot said about Cam, not just this year, but really for feels like the last 3-4 years, right? Like the conversation around him, and that's why I think relentlessness that Lance brought up is a great way to speak about him in the way he plays, and then also the stage of career he's in right now, where he's still doing this. He's still pushing everybody. If you told me one guy has 6.5, where's Chase at right now? 5.
Chase is at 5.
5. If you told me one guy had 5 sacks, another guy had 6.5, I wouldn't be thinking that Jordan was one of those 2. Like, I just wouldn't have thought that. And the fact that he's doing that right now, you take a step back, take the journalist hat off for a second, just as a fan of the team, he's one of the guys that you think about. He's one of the guys that you can't help but love as a Saints fan. To see him still doing it at this age, to me, it's a good story, and it's also been a surprising one as well. So, yeah, shout out to Cam with what he's been able to do recently, and those streak of games that he's getting sacks in. Hey, all right, now the second best rusher on his team is Cam Jordan. I didn't think that would be the case coming into the season.
Also, while we're talking about it, Carl Granderson, another game, just 1 pressure, no sacks, another disappointing performance.
Trying to keep it bright, Dylan.
I'm sorry, but
sure.
while we're talking about it.
Well, I was just saying, I was not so sure, like, with the way Cam's playing, with the way DeMario's playing. I don't know that I continue to default and say this would just be their last season. I mean, of course, it depends on if they want to play, of course. And there's void years. They've got to figure some things out. But I don't know that you can totally dump the leadership in the offseason. And if Cam's still playing at this level and feels like he can still do it, I'm not opposed to him coming back. I'm not opposed to DeMario coming back. But I do think that at the same time, they need answers outside of Cam and outside of Chase Young, and they're not getting those answers. Whereas at the linebacker spot with DeMario, you know, they're getting some answers with Stutzman and Stallbird a little bit here and there. So interesting caveat, I would say. But also, since I didn't really talk about it, but what was Mike McDaniel thinking taking A-Chain out of the game on that 4th and 1 and give it to Ollie Gordon? Like, why in the world would you take your best person who has gashed the team the entire day out on the 4th and 1? That could have been a completely different change of the game, and then nothing would have ever happened if they would have picked up that 4th down.
Also, that was an interception by Quincy Riley. I get that they couldn't return it, but that was an interception. That was an interception.
And to back up all of the HN talk, just real quick, he had 6.1 yards per carry. Tua had 6.8 yards per completion.
Crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I think that tells a story of the Miami offense, and it also brings the questions like John said. Why is he not in the game?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get over to our players of the game coming up next. All right. Let's close out today's show by going over the players of the game, and I'll start off the bidding with the guy I mentioned at the top of the show, Charlie Smith. Everyone freaked out whenever they were trying out Justin Tucker. Cade York got signed. Everyone kind of felt like, man, what does this mean for Charlie Smith? Do they not have confidence in him? But I do like that they just brought in some competition to make him earn that spot, not just give it to him. And he earned it, and he looked good in this game, and I feel like he should probably go into next week as the kicker again, because nailed a 56-yarder, his only opportunity of the day. The kickoffs were a little iffy, and you could see the frustration with him on that part. And I think with today's kickoffs, that is the biggest area of growth he's going to need to learn. But as a pure field goal kicker, I'll give him the shout out for making the trip for his family worth it and getting his first field goal. Shout out to him. It felt good to see a long field goal go in, and it could have been good for from 60. That guy has a big.
Oh, he's got the leg for it. Yeah, he can get that record if they let him. I'm just saying.
That'd be interesting. That'd be funny after the field goal woes of all this season, and then going for the record.
But,
right on.
I mean, it also makes you wonder what could have been, right? Like, had this team had the wherewithal to make a change a lot earlier in the season, who's to say that Charlie Smith couldn't come in and been balling, right? Like, first career game, 56-yard field goal, and an onside kick. Sure, we need to do a little bit better at the kickoffs, but that to me is fixable. A guy that can't hit a field goal consistently, that's a harder fix than saying, hey, this is where we need to hit the ball. This is the amount of, leg we need to use to get the ball in this specific area. Like, muted myself. My bad. I think that's an easier fix than having field goal miss issues. And I'm happy for him. I'm not saying that they should cut Cade York and sign another guy to the roster that maybe can help them at a different position, but I think he should be the kicker the rest of the year. You've invested years now into this kid. Allow him to be the kicker for this season. And then you can figure out what you want to do after the season. But I mean, what more? I mean, I'm happy for him. We all kind of wanted to see what he could do. And then it's like, well, why do we even have him on the roster if you're not allowing him to kick? So good for him. And hopefully he's able to continue to be the kicker and make that job his.
And Lance had a what if. I got a what if, and I got a question. So I think it's kind of crappy to think about it this way, but if Fitzpatrick just would have intercepted that ball and didn't return it for a pick six, you would have potentially seen a Charlie Smith game-winning field goal opportunity as well with how the game ended up playing out. And you had you got the onside kick. This could have been an even greater story, but that right there took it out of play because, then you're down 4 points. But with him being on I don't want to get the terminology wrong, but what's his status with the roster seen as an international player? I don't know if it's something about the practice squad or what.
Yeah, the International Pathway program allows for you to carry an extra player on your practice squad without it counting against your 16 numbered spots. Okay. So, and it doesn't have to be a kicker. I mean, I think Mailata back in the day was an International Pathway player, believe it or not, and it's turned into a Pro Bowler. So, you can basically, I think each team is allowed one player and you don't have to use it. Right. But in order for him to become your kicker, you have to sign him to the active roster the same way that you would sign any other player from your practice squad to your active roster. So he counts as a roster spot if he's on active. But if he's on the practice squad, he does not count as one of your 16 allowed practice squad players.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
That's the exemption. And they can only call him up 2 more times after this. Then they have to put him on the active roster. That's the other thing.
Yep. 3-week call up.
Yep. Darian, player of the game.
I'm going to go with Vele. I really like what I saw from him. I think that it is a trend, like I mentioned earlier. I saw what he did last week. It felt like you had some opportunities where you wanted to let him use his size. Those back-to-back in-breaking routes. I love that Shuck and Kellen Moore went right back to that after it worked the first time. You saw Vele catch a ball across the middle, get hit, hold on to the ball. Like, these are things that you needed in the offense from a pure base level situation. Then you have his ability to scramble. And I know Shuck is going to do that a lot. So I think that makes him one of Shuck's best friends on the field. You see big time plays from him catching that ball in the back of the end zone. I think he did so many things, and he recovered the onside kick. This was just an all around good day from him. He almost hit 100 yards this year. I would have to go look. It almost feels like that would double his season total with how they've been using him, or at least get close to it. And just seeing Vele be a part of the offense that it felt like you finally wanted to use. There's been times he's made catches where it felt like he went through the progression, but there was times today where it felt like he was the main option on some of those routes with how quickly that either Shuck went through his progressions that just felt that fast, but he got to him so quickly that it finally felt like he was a featured part of the offense, and I was happy to see that, and he took advantage of that opportunity to me.
Yeah. John.
Yeah, don't forget the onside kick recovery, which still I don't know how that worked. But anyways, that was the thing.
They showed.
I'm going to go ahead and do.
They showed a close up where it hit.
It was close.
I think.
That's what they said. I don't know. That's what they say. I'll take it. I'll take it. It didn't change anything.
I'll take it.
Yeah, maybe it's a makeup call, right? I'm going to go with Cam. I think he needs his flowers for this game. I mean, look, you are from a team that has had so many problems in the pass rush, all these other things, and Cam Jordan's the guy who's been kind of, I guess, doing his thing and still doing his thing at a high level, and you pass up Derek Thomas, and now you're tied with Ricky Jackson at 17th. I mean, Cam deserves to be mentioned here. I think he deserves a lot of love. 2 sacks on Tua. They got 4 today. Half of them came from Cam Jordan. He needs 4.5 to go tie with LT and Leslie O'Neal now to get to 15th. I don't know. He might be able to do it. I'd love to see him get in and go higher, but for me, I got to give some love to Cam Jordan, man, because he just continues to be for a guy that, you touched on it, Darren, who's been under so much criticism for the past several years. For him to still have the season that he's having at this particular junction in his career, it's got to be appreciated. It has to be noticed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Shout out to Cam, man. Lance.
Yes. Yeah, you made me go last, and I'm really grasping at straws here. So I'm gonna go.
I mean, you could say Vele too. I mean,
I agree. I agree with those 3 guys. And if I were a head coach and we win the game and I'm giving game balls, those are the 3 guys that I'm going to give balls to. Pause.
Hey, now that's 2.
So I'm gonna do an honorable mention situation here, and I'm gonna go offense and defense. So I'm gonna say Chase Young on defense. I agree with Dylan. He's coming around. He's making sacks or a sack today, but he's consistent in his pressure. He is active in the run game. Like, that's what you want to see from a guy that's highly compensated. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Tyler Shuck. I don't know that it was his best performance, but I think he did enough in that second half to keep us in the game and give us an opportunity. He can't call the plays himself, right? He can only execute the plays that are called for him. So, and in particular, those 2 touchdown throws were impressive. Extending plays, touch throws, and completions that not a lot of other quarterbacks are making happen. And he's leaning in to the best part of his game now. And so I'd say, those 2 are kind of honorable mention players of the game for me.
I'd add one other honorable mention. I'd put Kool-Aid in there for his pick and
okay.
his stop on 4th and 1.
Yeah.
I would say he deserves some at least an honorable mention, because that was 2 big moments.
I agree.
Yeah, I was gonna throw that in there, especially that interception. And I think when you say there were big moments, of course, a 4th down and a turnover are big, but then you think about when they happen too. Right off the heels of a Saints turnover, you get a turnover, it really feels like you steal back momentum. You look at that 4th and 1, it feels like you get that, it's over. Do they lose anyway? Yes, but it feels like if they get that 4th and 1, it's over. And Kool-Aid's the last person you think is going to make a stop on 4th and 1. Chases down Gordon, makes the tackle, and gives the Saints a chance to go down and score a touchdown, which they do. Everything else after those 6 points didn't turn out the way you wanted it. But Kool-Aid made big plays in big moments. So that's kind of like a double up. And had Lance went with Vele, because I didn't think I was going to go second, I probably would have thrown Kool-Aid in there.
Yeah,
man. I'm looking at the rest of the schedule. 5 games left. Man, it feels hard to pick them to win any of these games. It feels a little bit better in the second half, but the only team that I really think I'm leaning towards picking them against is the Titans, because as bad as the Saints look, the Saints look bad. The Titans, they look like barely an NFL team.
No, they are the correct answer. So
who are the next couple weeks?
Tampa.
It is, I'll just read off the rest of the schedule.
Right,
it is at Tampa, home against the Panthers, home against the Jets, at the Titans, at Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. Maybe 1 win.
So, okay, the Saints have 2 wins. The Giants and Raiders have 2 wins, but they play each other when do they play each other? On the 28th. So I think that's the same day that the Saints play the Titans. Could be a very interesting day in the top 4 of the NFL draft. But the Giants play the Raiders, the Giants play the Commanders, and the Giants play the Vikings. Those are all teams who have 4 or less wins. Things to think about when talking about where the Saints kind of fall in this logjam, where it feels like we've had so many bad teams. We talked about how the Saints record last year would have usually had them much higher in the draft. It feels like this year, once again, you're looking at the entire top 10 with 5 or less wins. So these are things to look at. It's at the point where you start looking at the teams around the Saints on the draft and say, how many games are they going to win? How many games are the Saints going to win? How does this play out? Yep. I think we're at that part of the season now.
I think the bottom line is I think you feel fine if the Titans finish ahead of you with the number 1 overall pick and you land with a 2 pick, because I'm looking at the teams like the Raiders, the Browns, the Jets, all definitely are going to be in the quarterback conversation after this season, I think, in the draft.
Yeah.
So if even if you miss out on the number 1 pick, a team's going to want like a Ty Simpson or something and still willing to trade up to the 2nd spot. So I think as long as you're there, but honestly, if you pick 2nd, I talked about this with Ross, I'm picking Arvell Reese and I'm not thinking about it. But you can also obviously trade back and still get a good pass rusher. But yeah, that's where I'm feeling. But I feel good about where the Saints are right now in the draft. And even if they don't get the 1st pick, because the Titans, the Titans are the Titans.
The Titans.
The Titans, your girlfriend. Whoa.
Also have to go on the road to play that game, so it's, it's not going to be ideal weather, I'm sure, there. So there's going to be other variables and factors that weigh heavily on how the outcome of that game is gonna end up. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. Just we're gonna beat the Titans because the Titans are the worst team in the NFL. I just don't want to live in that world.
Yeah, I mean anything could happen any given Sunday, but this time it's just the Saints could lose. All right. Well, that is enough of that. We'll see y'all on Wednesday as we come back, talk about the Saints team, dive deeper into this game, talk about the game against the Buccaneers coming up next, which I think is the toughest game left on the schedule. But the Bucs haven't looked great the past couple of weeks either. So that's going to be an interesting conversation. Anyway, we'll be back. You can check out me, Lance, John, and Darren on our socials for the latest. Make your second listen of the day. Either, Ross is going to come back and do his show. You can hear his thoughts on the game. And then also come check me out over on Locked On Pelicans. We're having fun over there, despite that team being as bad as you think the Saints are. Oh, boy, is there another New Orleans professional team that might be worse. And no Zion and Trey Murphy tonight. I'll see y'all then. Have a fun game.